Hello, welcome. This is the newest single from my band Up Till 9. The song is called S.O.S. We're really excited and proud of the song. Wanted to give you all a little bit of a walkthrough of the production and the mix of the song. This is me just trying my hand at some long-form content. I personally love watching videos like this and learn about mixing and production from watching other people do it. So let's go ahead and play the song from the beginning, and I'll play it through the end of the first chorus. You can get a sense of the song if you haven't heard it, and then I will start a walkthrough of the mix. Enjoy.
Soundtrack in my mind, like something from the universe, is telling me that this ain't right. Could things get worse? She can't do this one more day. I'm trying to get over it, always get in my own way, and she can't take it. And she said, it's the same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be? Just the same old story of you and me.
Okay, so I think the place I want to start is actually with the master. I use a lot of Adam Nully Get Good's videos as my source of learning for mixing, and this is what he does. It's a top-down approach. All it means is on the master track and the instrumental bus and some drum bus stuff, we're gonna have presets, basically plugins that are preloaded, and I never hear the sounds without these plugins on. And I'm mixing into them all the time. And then it kind of gives me a sense of the finished product. So in the master bus, we'll start with that. The first thing that's happening is this instance of soothe. It's a pretty subtle thing, but it's just gonna be taking off a bit of the transient from the snare and a little bit of the harshness in the vocals. So I'll go ahead and let it play, and I'll solo the delta from soothe. I'll bypass it and then put it back on.
It's the same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be? Just the same old story.
Okay, the next plugin in the chain for mastering for the master track is this instance of Gulfos. Gulfos is kind of a smart EQ, and it will react in real time to the song, and it will boost or cut certain frequencies. It's not doing this. This is whatever it does when it's not, when there's nothing playing. It looks pretty weird. But basically, these moves are going to be within like 2 or 3 dB. Again, pretty subtle, but it makes everything sound, it gives it like a sheen, and it makes it all sound like there's a lot of automation happening, because it's doing boosts and cuts and just keeping everything within a certain frequency range. It just sounds really good. Again, kind of subtle, but super necessary for my mixing. I'll play it with it on and then turn it off and back on.
Same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be? Just the same old.
So if you want to get more about this top-down mixing approach, I would go and check out Nolly's videos on his YouTube channel, GGD. Next, I have the virtual tape machine from Slate Digital. This is, again, in Nolly's chain. And this is just adding some warmth. It's going to add a little bit of a low-end bump to the kick. And again, this is subtle, but it sounds really good and is just another piece of the puzzle for the master. I keep saying master, but the mastering happens separate. This is what's on the master track within the mix.
Same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be?
Okay, the next plugin in the chain on the master is going to be a limiter from FabFilter. This is the Pro L2. This is something that will be bypassed when the song goes to mastering. But I like to mix into the limiter so that I can judge how my sounds are going to be when they're mastered. I think this is really important to mix into a limiter. So you're not trying to throw a limiter on at the end. You should be able to hear, especially like the snare and the kick, what they're going to sound like in the limiter later.
Same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy.
So pretty subtle limiting. This is just for the purposes of mixing. And again, that'll be turned off when I bounce it out to send to mastering. And then I've got a loudness meter. I think we're getting like around -10 LUFS. Let's see.
Same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy.
Okay, so it's fairly loud. It's getting -7, -8. And that's the whole master chain. Next, we're going to look at the instrumental bus. The instrumental bus is separate from vocals. It's everything but vocals are going through the instrumental bus. And this is, again, something that Nolly does with all of his mixes. And it's just a really great way to get a cohesive instrumental mix and to have the vocals sit on top of that really comfortably and not feel like the vocals are getting covered up by anything. I have a very subtle EQ on this instrumental bus. I mean, it's just a little bit of gain reduction on the low end. And then the main thing here is this FG Gray from Slate Digital. I use this in the same way that Nolly does. And basically what this is doing is it's reacting to the snare and kick a little bit. And it's going to turn the mix, all the instrumentals, it's going to turn it down when the snare and the kick hit. And the purpose of this is so that the snare can be mixed really loud on top of the other instruments, but when it hits, it doesn't sound like it's really aggressively sitting on top of the mix and everything reacts to the snare. And the way that this compressor does this is just incredible. This is a part of the Slate Digital Bus compressor bundle, and it's just an amazing compressor. So I'll turn it off and on, and you can hear what it's doing.
Same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's
So when I turned it off, you could hear the snare got kind of blocky sounding and a little bit, it just sounded like it's sitting on top of the mix in a way that's not as pleasant. But when this is on, it sounds all really cohesive. Next up is the FG Red. And this is pretty heavy compression, but it's only mixed in at 20-25%. I'm actually doing some automation on the mix on this, so it's mixed heavier in the chorus by, I think it's 25% in the chorus, and it's 20% everywhere else, so it gives the chorus a bit of a bump. But it's parallel compression, so it's not 100% taking over the mix. It's just it's heavy compression that's mixed in a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll play it, and then I'll turn it off and back on, and then I'll bring the mix knob all the way up and then put it back where it was before so you can hear what it's doing.
same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be? Just the same old story of you and me.
Okay, so that's everything for the instrumental bus and for the master bus. All right, let's take a look at drums. Drums also have a bit of top-down mixing on them. So we'll take a look at the Slate Virtual Mix Rack, and I'm gonna go ahead and solo the drum bus. And this is just hitting 2 EQs that are on the whole drum mix and a compressor that's being used for parallel compression. This first EQ has just a little bit of a bump at around 5.5K, and then another bump around 12K in this EQ. And then the monster compressor is kind of my sauce for drum mix. It's really cool. It adds a lot of energy, and I'm fairly aggressive with the mix on this for a really in-your-face drum sound. So I'll play the drums and then turn off and on all of these plugins within the virtual mix rack. So you can hear what a huge difference this monster compressor makes. And again, this is top down, so all of these plugins are always active when I am mixing the drums, so I never hear the drums without these sounds. And finally, another instance of soothe, very subtle, just taking off some of the transients. So you can see, actually, I've got all of my mix is pretty much all in buses. You can take a look and see, here's drums, bass. There's actually 2 different bass sounds, rhythm guitar, lead guitar. Some things are not in a bus, like this one acoustic guitar, synths, effects, verse vocals, chorus vocals, bridge vocals. There's one vocal that isn't in a bus, and then there's the instrumental in the master. So I find that this keeps the mix really clean and easy to navigate and organized. So when I'm working in it, I know where everything is, and it's all labeled in a way that I know what it means. So, okay, we'll expand the drum bus, and here we can see the drum MIDI and then all of the printed audio for the drums. This was recorded with Modern and Massive, and it was played in on an electric kit and then printed down into audio. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the kick first. This is pretty much where I start every mix, would be just looking at the kick. And there's actually some kick samples that are being put on here. So I'm going to turn the samples off so you can just hear the kick raw. And there's 2 plugins on the kick, an EQ and Smash and Grab from GGD. So we'll play it from the verse, and I'll turn the Smash and Grab off. And we'll just take a look at the EQ. Okay, so we'll go ahead and turn off all these moves, and I'll add them back in and explain my thinking for each one. Okay, so this first move here is going to be to get rid of that. There's like an overtone right above the fundamental of the kick that's going to muddy it. And bringing that out really adds clarity to the low end of this kick. So I'll go ahead and play, and I'll turn that move on, and you can hear what it's doing. So instantly more clear. Then we have a high shelf, and this is just going for that smile EQ look. And the high shelf is going to add some click. Okay, but then when you add a high shelf, you're going to introduce maybe some resonances. So I found 3 that I took out. You could spend forever looking for resonances in your EQ and taking them out. I settled for 3 that I thought could be brought down, and I'll solo each one so you can hear what I was going for. Okay, so there's the kick EQ. And then just keeping it really simple and running through smash and grab. This is a wonderful compressor made by GGD, and it's really like 6 compressors in one because you've got different arrangements of compression for all the different drum types. So this is set to kick, and it's in grab mode, which is going to increase the transient of the kick. And I've got a fair amount of compression. I think it's going to be around -3, -5. Boosting a little bit of beef and air into the kick. That's, again, going to add to that smile EQ of the low and high end. And then I've got it pulled down so it's not at 100% mix. And that's because when you overcompress a kick, you lose some low end. And I find that mixing it in kind of like a parallel compression makes it so that that bloom of the low end of the kick is still there and not being compressed too much. So I'll turn this off and on, and you can hear the difference. Okay, then the kick is running into a bus that I'm using to trigger samples. So we will turn the kick samples on, and I'm using the Slate Digital, Steven Slate Trigger 2, and I'm actually using a kick sample from GGD Slammer's Power Vault, and we can hear what this sample sounds like. And I've got it in there about 50-50, 50 sample, 50% real kick. Okay, and that pretty much completes the kick. Now we're going to look at snare. The snare is split into the snare top and snare bottom, and the snare top and bottom are both running into a bus that I'm processing separately for just the snare. We'll start here with snare top. Very simple, just an EQ on the snare top. And again, I'll show you what I was thinking when I made these moves. Okay, so we'll turn all these moves off, and then I'll solo them, and you can hear what I was bringing down. It's all reductive EQ. Okay, and the snare top you can hear is actually running into a bus with reverb on it. And the reverb is actually for all the shells. I'm using Pro R2 for this, and this is just a drum studio preset. I find it's better to put reverb on the snare top so that the harshness of the snare wires aren't being emphasized with that reverb. So I think it just sounds better using only the snare top for that reverb sound. And using it before it's been processed too much gives it a natural reverb sound as well. So that's all that's happening with the snare top. Now we'll look at snare bottom. Okay, so just a little dip out of the middle here for the snare bottom. That's all that's happening there. And then, like I said, they're running into a bus, which also has an EQ on it, as well as smash and grab. This is the snare bus only for the snare top and bottom. So we'll solo that. Okay, so that's the EQ for the snare, which is also running into smash and grab. Again, this is set in grab mode to emphasize that transient, and the compressor is set to the snare setting. There's a little bit more going on with this. The compression is pretty heavy-handed on the snare. Also boosting a little bit of air top end into the snare, as well as some saturation, which is a super important part of the snare because it's gonna smooth out that transient a little bit and add that distortion to the sound. I pulled down the mix knob just a little bit on this as well. So we'll listen to this on and off. All right, and then finally the snare again is running through some samples. We'll go ahead and take a look at the samples I chose. There's 3 samples, so we'll solo each of these and you can hear all the samples I'm using on the snare. Okay, and all of that snare processing comes together to give us our final snare sound, and we'll listen to what we end up with. Okay, there's actually one other thing going on with the snare. I wound up doing some different processing on the rim of the snare in the bridge. And this was just so I could get a little bit less compression and not quite so heavy-handed on the bridge section because it's a pretty toned down section. So we'll listen to the rim of the snare, and this is just an EQ and smash and grab. Just not quite as much gain reduction on smash and grab. And that's also being run through the snare reverb. Okay, so next we're gonna start looking at toms. Toms can be tricky to get right, but I've learned a few tricks I'm excited to show off. So let's take a look at the rack tom. And the toms are also going through a bus, so you're gonna hear them with a little bit of compression on them from smash and grabs set to tom mode and a limiter as well. This is just the stock Logic limiter. Okay, so we'll look at the rack tom and find a good place here. First thing that it's running through is a gate and then an EQ, followed by Saturn. This is one of my favorite tricks that I've learned with toms. Okay, so let's start with the gate. We'll turn everything off and then show you what this gate is doing on the rack tom. So that's just trimming off the trail of the transient of the tom because that stuff can be hanging around a little too long, that low end information. It can muddy up the mix. So using a gate to get rid of it is good. This is a pretty aggressive gate, and it's just coming in at the tail of the tom, and this is going to be on all 3 of the toms, this gate. Next, we're hitting this EQ. There's a lot going on in this EQ, and I'll show you every move I've made here. It's only 4 moves, but they're doing a lot. So we're scooping out a lot of the mids of the tom, and pretty much every tom is going to have this right above the fundamental tone of the tom. You're going to see a pretty big bump of the first overtone, and that's going to muddy up the mix on the tom. So we'll listen to this move bypassed, and you can see this mound of frequencies here. Okay, when we engage this EQ move, it just really cleans it up. Okay, and then finally we're running through Saturn. And Saturn is a multi-band saturation tool, and it's going to add some tape distortion. I've got it set to the warm tape mode on all 3 bands. The lowest band is doing nothing. The middle band I'm kind of scooping out, and then the top band I'm emphasizing and bringing up some stick attack, and that lift in the high end on the tom gives it a very pleasing final sound. So we'll listen to this, and I'll bypass Saturn and turn it back on. You can hear what it's doing. So again, these 3 bands are the fact that you can control them all separately makes it a great tool for mixing toms. And honestly, it's the same moves on the floor tom and on both floor toms. Just the EQ is slightly different depending on where the cuts need to be. So we'll look at the EQ for floor tom 1 and floor tom 2, and then we'll move on. So here's floor tom 1. So again, you can see that bump here that I'm subtracting, and then both the rack tom and the floor toms have a dynamic band here to control that the fundamental resonance of the tom. It can just get a little intense, and to have a dynamic band that reacts to that is good, rather than just cutting it out. The EQ is just going to bring it down when that gets a little too intense, and you can see that working. Okay. And then again, it's got a gate on it, same settings. And Saturn, the frequencies I chose for each band might be a little different. Okay, let's look at the spot mic. The spot mic is very simple. It's just, you're going to hear hi-hat and some cymbals, and I've just got a high-pass band and then a couple resonances that I took out. Really subtle. Okay, we'll look at overheads. First, we have an EQ, and again, high pass, followed by a couple reductive moves, and then just a little lift on the top end. It's also hitting smash and grab fairly aggressively in the smash mode this time, and soothe as well. So we'll turn off soothe and smash and grab and start with EQ on the overheads. Okay, fairly subtle EQ on that. Then we will turn on smash and grab. We can see this is set to overhead mode, so we'll listen to this on and bypass. And then finally soothe. Soothe is just going to be grabbing those harsh resonances from the cymbals. And I think this plugin is really great because, again, it's like a smart EQ. You don't have to go through there and notch out frequencies. This is going to listen to it and do it for you. You can overdo soothe and kind of take your cymbal sound and just get rid of everything that's cool about it with soothe. So you have to be careful. I don't think I'm not doing too much with it, but it does make the overheads less harsh, and then therefore something I can boost and use more in the final drum mix. So we'll play it and I'll turn it off and back on so you can hear what Soothe is doing. All right. Last channel in the drum bus is the room channel. I like the room to be smashed and really in your face, heavy compression. The room channel has an EQ, which is running into smash and grab, and again, Soothe on the same settings, just to keep control of those cymbal resonances. So we'll just turn off the Soothe and compressor and listen to the EQ on the room. Okay, for the compression, I believe this is pretty heavy-handed compression, and I've got it at full mix, set to room, and in smash mode. And we'll listen to this with the smash and grab on. So super cool sound. It's getting up to -7, -5 dB of gain reduction. And I love how that sounds. And finally, Soothe. Again, subtle, but just controlling some of the cymbal resonances. And with that, we have our final drum sound. So we'll solo the drum bus and just have a listen to the chorus with all these plugins on. Super happy with that. And in verse 2, there's actually a production element going on. You'll see there's two plugins here, a single band EQ, and the reverb comes on at the end of the tune. But I'll go ahead and show you what's going on with the single band EQ at the beginning of verse 2. It's kind of cool. It's a filter that is a low pass, and then it brings in the rest of the frequency spectrum as verse 2 goes on. And we'll have a listen here to the drums in verse 2. Okay, and in context.
Remember the days when we were young, like an old home video. We were so naive and dumb, couldn't get enough. You could take me by the arm.
So I just love that element in verse 2. I try to make, when we're writing songs, we try to make verse 2 a very interesting part of the song. It should feel very different and have something special in it. Verse 2 can be where a lot of people copy and paste, and we try not to do that and keep verse 2 one of the most interesting parts of the song. Okay, I think we're done with the drums. Let's start looking at bass. We'll look inside the bass bus here, and I actually mixed the bass in two different tracks. We've got the high end of the bass and the low end of the bass. So this is going to be just those upper frequencies, and this will be only the sub and the low end to have minute control over both aspects of the instrument. So we'll start by looking at the bass DI, and I'm going to turn off all plugins, and we'll solo the bass DI. We'll just go to the chorus, and we'll listen to what the DI sounds like without anything. Okay, so you can hear that the DI for the bass is really well played. Emerson recorded it on his P bass, so of course the P bass is going to sound good, but we are very meticulous when we record. We are trying to get every note with perfect timing, perfect tuning and intonation on the fretboard, and we use fresh strings and are just really careful to get really good consistency and dynamics and make sure we have an excellent performance, because the mixing part is not about fixing the performance. You shouldn't be trying to fix anything when you're mixing. It should already sound great. And this bass DI already sounds awesome. So I know I have something great to work with right away. And also, to add on to that, we do the production of the bass, guitar, and vocals all in different projects, not in the master project. And we do that so that we can just focus on the production elements of those instruments. If you're recording into the master, you might have things that could distract you. And I think just using a project only for recording bass on the song makes you just think about bass. And for us, it comes out better that way. So the first thing that you're going to have here on the bass DI is an EQ. And you can see I've got a really extreme high pass band on here. And that's because, like I said, this is going to be only for the higher end of the instrument. And there's going to be a separate track for the low sub information. So let's listen to this EQ on and off on the DI. Okay, so here I'm just trying to emphasize this growl, the gritty snarl of the 2K band here, and high passing all the way up to 247. And then I've got a significant scoop out of the high end, and that's just taking out some of that harsh pick attack. The next plugin in the chain, you can see the chain for the bass is fairly intensive. It's got the most plugins of anything in the project. This is a compressor just for the DI, so that whatever is going into the amp is going to be really even, and it's just emphasizing the transient of each attack on each note. So we'll listen to this with the compressor on and off. So pretty extreme compression, up to like 14 dB of gain reduction, but it sounds good, so I'm not going to worry about the numbers. Next up, we have Parallax. This is Neural DSP's bass modeling, and it is just an incredible plugin. It's thought of being used for metal a lot, but I think you can get any sound out of it. I think it's just great on anything. So, well, we do have some metal tones in this single and in the songs to come for this album. I do think that Parallax suits Emerson's bass playing really well and makes for a great pop punk sound as well. So here's Parallax. If you don't know anything about this, it's got 3 bands. The mid and high band are for different levels of distortion, and then the low band is to keep it clear. No distortion, and you can do compression. Now with this, I'm not using the low band so much because I'm going to be high passing the sound, but I'll show you how Parallax works, and we'll just kind of look at all 3 of these bands. Okay, here is the bass sound running through Parallax, which is going to give us the amp in cab. So fairly aggressive sound, but in a mix, you need that on bass. You need your bass to really snarl and growl, because to cut through everything else, all the guitars, the vocals, the drums, the bass has a big job to do, and Parallax really helps that sound come through. Next, we have more compression to get it even, to pin it even more and get as much consistency and dynamics as possible so that it's very non-dynamic. You don't want a dynamic bass. your bass shouldn't be jumping in and out of the mix. That's one of my least favorite things, especially in the low end. Your bass should be pinned. Now, not to say that your song can't have dynamics, intentional changes in volume between verse and chorus and whatnot, but within the playing, there shouldn't be anything jumping out and in that catch the listener's ear in the wrong way. So this compression is just to pin the bass even more. Let's listen to it on and off. Okay, next up we have Saturn again. There's no bands in this, it's all one band, just to add some warm tape saturation. It just adds more of that growl. Finally, we have one more EQ, and this is to high pass, again, up to about 245 hertz, so that it can be mixed in with the low bass you're going to hear in a minute. Okay, so now let's solo the low bass, and you can hear what I'm going for with this. So this is the same DI, copy and pasted, but the EQ is only allowing for this small bit of information here in the lows to come through. And I'm also adding R bass from Waves. This is a great plugin. I've got it set to 80 hertz, and it's just boosting and actually adding some frequency information in that low end. I will turn both of these off and on so you can hear what they're doing, the EQ and the R bass. You can hear that R bass is really adding a lot of warmth to the sound. And finally, for bass, more compression. This is to pin that low information. You don't want, again, that low thump of the bass to be jumping in and out of the mix. You want it to be really consistent in dynamics. So fairly heavy compression at minus 17 dB of gain reduction with a fast attack as well. Okay, and that all comes together to make our final bass sound. I will, again, solo the high and then the low, and then I'll put it all together so you can hear what the bass sounds like. Context with the drums. Love hearing those sounds together. All right, there's actually one more bass sound in this song, and it happens here at the bridge, where we get a completely different bass sound. What we were going for here was something clean and clear and really crisp to complement what the bridge is doing. It's a pretty subdued bridge, so the bass needed to reflect that as well. We'll listen to the DI. This bass was actually recorded in 2 different takes. It sounds like Emerson is playing chords on the bass, but we wanted each note to be really clear and clean, so we wound up doing it in 2 different takes and putting it together, and it fits together really seamlessly. And of course, when he plays it live, he'll just do the chords. But for the record, we wanted it to be as clear and clean as possible. So we'll go ahead and mute all the plugins on this bass sound. awesome bass sound. I'm so happy with how that came out, and that's with no plugins on or anything. It's actually running through Amplitude. We're using a Fender Bassman, and running it through after the Fender Bassman, it's going into a guitar cab with the GGD Cali oversized cabs. And I just love how this came out. Super clean and clear and crisp. Aside from these gain plugins, the only thing on it are going to be an EQ, Pro C2 again, and then Saturn. So we'll go ahead and put these plugins on, and you can hear what the final sound is here in the bridge. This is all adding really subtle stuff to it because, like I said, the source tone is great. I think this wound up sitting really nicely with the drums, so we'll listen to those two sounds together. Super cool. Okay, with that, we're done with bass, and we're going to move on to rhythm guitars. I do have guitars split into rhythm and lead, so I can treat them differently. The rhythm guitars are really simple because, like I said with bass, the production goes into it beforehand. The guitars are already sounding good, and I record all the guitars in a different project. I'm very meticulous when recording guitars. I want to get every note perfectly in tune. I want to get all the palm mutes in the exact right position and make sure my timing is as perfect as it can be. I think this is crucial to getting a good tone. A lot of times people say, I don't like that guitar tone. And maybe it's just that they didn't like the way the person played it, you know? We also use Neural DSP. So, of course, we're going to get a great sound. And it's running through Cali oversized cabs from GGD as well. So we'll take a look at the guitars. I'm going to mute all plugins on the guitar bus and just start with the verse. And I will solo the left side palm mute guitars in the verse, and you can hear what this raw tone is. Very happy with how those palm mutes came out. My favorite part of listening to OG pop punk is the way that those palm mutes felt in my ears when I was listening as a kid. And I wanted to recreate that in a more modern way. The palm mutes from Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and Enema of the State, thinking about Anthem Part 2 and Aliens Exist have some of my favorite palm mute sounds in it. And I wanted to have that in this song. It's single notes from the guitar and really played really clean and clear. Let's put the right in as well so you can hear it in stereo. The guitar I'm playing on you probably won't recognize because it's a guitar my dad built from scratch. He made the body, and it's called a Manitou Strings guitar. He calls it the Amber's model because of the color. And these PAF humbucking pickups are really what does it for me in this guitar. I don't need any other guitar. It's amazing and completely unique. Nobody else has a guitar like it. And it's pretty much my guitar. I only record with this guitar. I love how it sounds. Okay, so we'll look at the rhythm guitar bus. And it looks like there's a lot of plugins on here, but they're really subtle. They're not doing a lot. We have an EQ. This is just high passing and low passing, and then subtly decreasing some resonances. The Next in the chain, we have the virtual mix rack, a slight EQ boost at 4.8, and then some light compression. And it's kind of hard to hear because these are really subtle. Next up, this is an important piece of the puzzle for guitars. This is Pro MB from FabFilter. This is a multi-band compressor. It allows you to compress certain frequencies within the spectrum. I have it dynamically focusing on the low end of the guitar because when you're palm muting a guitar, the instrument's going to give off way more low information than being open strummed or picked. So this, in a perfect world, should only be addressing the sound when the guitar is palm muted. So we'll have a listen to what this is doing. So you can hear it's just cleaning up that low end in the guitar. Next up we have Soothe again, and this is actually a preset called Guitar D-Spike in Soothe 2. I just like the way this sounded, so I kept it on there. So you can hear it's kind of decreasing some of those percussive attacks. And finally we have an imager. This is the Waves S1 imager. In the verses, it's not doing any widening, but I have it automated so that when the choruses come in, it's increasing the stereo width of the guitars. So we can kind of hear that. Here is the verse. And then here's the chorus. So we can see that the signal just widens out a little bit to give it to make the chorus kind of open up a little more when it hits. Okay, that's rhythm guitars. Go ahead and close that, and then look at lead guitars next. The lead guitars are being treated very similarly to the rhythms. I just like to have a separate bus for control over them. We'll look at this main riff. And I actually imported this into the project with no cab on it so I could have control over the cabinet in the master project. So we'll listen to it. I'll mute the cab. It's going to sound horrible without a cabinet on there. This is the GGD Studio Cabs, Cali oversized cabs. And I think this is a preset that I wound up using. And it's also got an EQ on this lead, as well as some soothe. So we'll play it so you can hear it, and then I'll start showing you what's going on in the processing. So we'll turn plugins off. It's going to sound absolutely terrible without the cabinet, but here we go. Okay, so we'll turn the cabinet back on and hear the grand difference. And again, this was just so I could have separate control over the cabinet in this lead. Next up in the chain, we have an EQ, very subtle, high and low pass. I'm not even sure these moves are doing much here. And then soothe with the same, oh, this is actually the cymbal preset I'm using on this. Okay, cool. So I guess this is taming some of the resonances up in the high end. Yeah, and then that's also running into the bus with a lot of these same moves that I showed you earlier. There's going to be an EQ boost at 4.8. This one doesn't have any compression on it. I am high passing it's running through the de-digitized software amp preset in Soothe 2, so we can listen to that on and off. Okay, and it's also got the imager on it. And this is doing what the last imager was doing. It's keeping it at 0 in the verses, and then for the chorus, it's going to open up a bit wider. Okay, and we'll look at one more lead guitar. Let's look at the opening riff. Okay, this is also running into its own cabinet from GGD Cabs. So let's have a listen to this guitar, the intro lead. Very nice sound, kind of chimey. And we'll listen to it without the cabinet and with the cabinet. Also running through Soothe, this is the same cymbal preset I'm using here. Next we have an EQ, very subtle. But you don't need, in a lead guitar, you don't need all this low stuff. It can sound harsh on its own when you take out all the low information of a guitar, but in the mix, it's going to sound right. It's going to allow for more space for those rhythm guitars, for the bass to sit in. Okay, we have a little bit of compression on this. And finally, some reverb actually on the channel. This is Pro R2. Oh, I see. This reverb is going to be something that comes on at the end. So we'll check here at the end of the song. Yeah. Just for that last note. Okay. We have some other fun lead guitars happening. We'll just listen to some of them. In the chorus, we have some picked stuff. We'll listen to these. Okay. And in verse 2, we have a couple of palm muted leads. And with some delay on it. I love how these fit in with the other rhythm guitars and the drums. Let's put the bass, drums, and lower rhythm guitars in here too. Awesome. Okay, that's going to do it for lead guitars. There's one more guitar in here, and this is an acoustic guitar, which is not even in the guitar bus. It's just sitting here on its own. Let's listen to that. This is in the third, right at the beginning of the third chorus. Going for kind of a lo-fi sound. Starting off with an EQ. Here, let's mute everything as we go through it. And let's hear it without anything on it first. And with the EQ, just high passing, cutting out a little bit of lows and boosting the highs. Then running into this Purple Audio compressor from Plug-in Alliance. Love this compressor. I use it on so many different things. I really like it on vocals. We'll hear this on and off on the acoustic guitar. Okay, next up, we've got Saturn again, set to the subtle tube mode, just to give a little bit of harmonic distortion. Okay, then one of my favorite production plugins, Bad Speaker. Actually found out about this from Pete Zen and really love this plugin. It's going to make it sound like it's coming out of either like a tape machine or an old cassette player. And I'm really going for a lo-fi sound, so we'll listen to this on and off and hear what I'm going for. It's a great plugin. And finally, just a little more EQ, because I thought it needed a little more low and high end control. Okay, so that does it for guitars. Next, we are going to have a look at synths. The synths are pretty subtle. There's not a lot going on. There's 2 different synths, but the way that they interact with the guitars are really important for the song. So we'll listen to this. This used to be a piano before I did a whole bunch of stuff to it. We'll listen to this intro synth. Okay, so this is running through a EQ and Pro R2. This synth was created in a different project, so I don't remember all the production that went into creating it, but it started as a piano before I did a whole bunch of stuff to it. For the EQ, I am high passing, cutting out some mids and lows, and then boosting the highs. So pretty standard, but the most important move here is this mid cut in only the mids. So you can see that not only is this a mid cut, it's actually cutting the mids out of the center. So you still have all that mid information on the sides. And what this does is it makes the synth sound wider, and it gives more space in the middle of the mix for the guitar, for the vocals, for the drums. And super important move. Again, you'll never guess where I learned it, from Nolly. So let's listen to it with this on and off, and you can hear how it widens out the sound. I love that. Such a simple trick. As soon as that comes on, it just fills out it takes away from the middle, comes out to the edges. Very desirable sound. And we'll hear how it interacts with the lead guitar in the opening. Really fills in the space and makes that lead guitar sound bigger than it is. Okay, finally, we have one more synth that comes in the bridge, being treated pretty much exactly the same way. Subtle EQ with the cut in the mids, but only in the mid of the stereo image so that it fills out the edge, and some reverb from Pro R2. So let's listen to the bridge, the synth. And we'll listen in context as well.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, 'cause I was too fucked up to drive home anyway.
Really pretty sound that to me makes the bridge. Okay, that's synths. moving right along to sound effects. This has become a bigger part of our productions recently and was kind of mysterious to me until I learned about using risers and impacts in a way that really elevates big moments in the song. There's not much going on EQ-wise with these. These are from Splice, and really all they're doing is adding some lift and big impacts to moments that are supposed to hit hard. So we have a riser here. We'll listen to that. Okay, and in context, this riser going into the first riff. And then immediately after the riser, we have an impact. Love that impact. And a extra cymbal. This is just on the right. I just like the way this crash sounds. I think it makes the chorus hit a little bit harder. So one more time with them all together. And these sound effects are coming in at every chorus.
It's the same old song, the same old story.
We also have a backward piano note that's emphasizing the filter that's happening on the drums in verse 2. We'll listen to this on its own. Okay, there's also a riser that goes with it. And a cymbal. And in context with verse 2.
Oh, we were so naive and dumb. Couldn't get enough. You could take me by the arm.
I love little elements like this in a song that makes you want to listen again. Like, what was that sound in the background? That sounds so cool. And just subconsciously makes the listener really latch onto those moments. All right, vocals will be one of the last things we look at here. And vocals there's a lot that goes into it. I, again, record in another project and only focus on the vocals. Then I will export them out and put them into the master project. For these vocals, I track them with some compression, EQ, and de-essing, but not a lot going on with that. Just to kind of get a jump on some of the stuff I know I'm going to do already anyway. And then I put them in the master project. I'm also recording to get everything as perfect as I can. I am trying to make sure I enunciate each word. I am singing at full volume, full power, especially for this chorus, and just trying to get everything perfect. I will then tune the vocals. I use Melodyne, and in Melodyne, I will always go through and decrease some of the syllabants so that I get a little bit of a de-esser control on there as well. And I will use the feature in Melodyne to bring up quiet notes and bring down louder notes just a little bit, by like 50%. And that's kind of like a first round of compression for me that then makes compressing the vocals easier later on. Then I'll time align the vocals. When we did S.O.S, I was actually aligning all the timing by hand, and I would go through and make sure that all the harmonies and doubles lined up perfectly, and it would take forever. I now use VocAlign. What a huge difference that makes for me when producing and time aligning my vocals. It's so much faster. It's pretty much instant with VocAlign. But with this project, I did it all by hand. So we'll take a listen to the main vocals in the verse and see what's going on with that. Okay, verse vocals. Let's solo these.
I hear a soundtrack in my mind, like something from the universe is telling me that this ain't right. Could things get worse?
Okay, so we'll turn off plugins here and have a listen. So virtual mix rack, I've got, looks like a little bit of an EQ boost around 15K. So kind of a high boost. And I've got another boost around, looks like 5.5K. And a little boost at 1.6K. And then some compression as well. So let's listen to this.
I hear a soundtrack in my mind, like something from the universe is telling me that this ain't right. Could things get worse?
Okay. Then we have some EQ. Pretty subtle EQ.
I hear a soundtrack in my mind, like something from the universe is telling me that this ain't right.
Okay. Some compression. Let's listen to verse 2 for this one.
Remember the days when we were young, like an old home video. We were so naive and dumb, couldn't get enough.
Okay, and there's a cool trick happening here. This is a vocal preset I made that boosts in the side chain. It boosts the high end at around 7, 8K. And what this will do is it will compress more on these frequencies where the S sounds might be, and it's going to start to act as a de-esser within the compressor. So what I try to do is all along the way, I'm trying to control the S's because you don't want those to get out of hand. They can be really hard to bring down if you haven't thought about them in each step of the chain. And I'm even thinking about them when I'm tracking. So there's that's going to control some of these S's here. And finally, I have de-esser, Pro DS from FabFilter. This is an amazing de-esser. It's really changed my mixing and made it so much easier. And this will just automatically control those S's to make them not too harsh.
Remember the days when we were young, like an old home video. We were so naive and dumb, couldn't get enough. You could take me by the arm, and I would be the lucky one. Nothing like two broken hearts.
There, so you can see it's acting on all of the S and T sounds to bring those under control. And then finally, all of the verse and harmony vocals, they're all being treated in that same way. And then they're running through the Purple Audio compressor as a bus compressor. And to me, this really makes all the vocals gel and come together. So let's listen to verse 2 in a place where there's harmonies so we can hear what I'm talking about.
When we were young, like an old home video. We were so naive and dumb, couldn't get enough. You could take me by the arm, and I would be the lucky one. Nothing like two broken hearts.
Okay. And then in this channel, we also have some vocals from my wife who sang a part for the pre-choruses, and I really love how this came out. I wound up doing some production elements on her voice within the master project. We've got it kind of like cut up so it sounds like she's talking or singing through a phone that's like cutting out, and then some lo-fi. There's quite a few production elements going on her voice. Let's listen to it without anything, and then I'll throw on the plugins.
Please don't let me go. Take me far away.
So I forgot to mention that all the vocals are running through a reverb as well. You can see here they're being sent to a bus that has, I believe, Valhalla, vintage verb, and it also has an echo, and then I'm EQing the reverb and echo. So that's why all of the vocals have the reverb and echo on them. Okay, so on her voice, the first plugin is Little Altar Boy. This is Sound Toys. Whoops. This is Sound Toys, and I love this plugin. It can do some pretty crazy stuff. I'm just doing a little bit of formant shifting here, and some distortion. So we'll hear this with and without.
Please don't let me go. Take me far away.
Okay. Then again, virtual mix rack, just some compression.
Please don't let me go.
Pretty heavy compression. EQ. I've got this really high passed because again, I'm going to go for a lo-fi sound with this. So we'll hear this with the EQ off and on.
Please don't let me go. Take me far away.
So going for that kind of lo-fi sound, just boosting up the highs. We've got virtual mix rack again, so more compression, and then I'm using this revival plugin to add some shimmer onto the top.
Please don't let me go. Take me far away.
Okay. More compression. Pro C2.
Please don't let me go. Take me far away.
I think one thing that's important to keep in mind when producing and mixing vocals is you always need more compression than you think at first. The highest quality pro vocals, they're going to have a lot of compression on them, which is why when you record your vocals, you need to have a silent environment. You don't want a room with a lot of early reflections. They should be treated, and the vocals need to be really clean and clear so that when you add all that compression, they sound professional in the mix. And finally, de-essing. We'll just listen to this on and off.
Please don't let me go. Take me far away. Please don't let.
Okay. Let's take a look at the chorus vocals just so we can hear the harmonies in that. All the processing is pretty much the same as the verse. Here are the chorus vocals soloed.
It's the same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be? Just the same old story of you and me.
So for these vocals, I have a main, a double, a center high harmony, and a center low harmony. And all of these are working together. They're perfectly time aligned and mixed the same way as the verse vocals. And they just create a really big vocal sound when they all come in together. So in context, here's chorus vocals.
It's the same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be? Just the same old story of you and me.
Okay. And I should say too, I always like to do different buses for verse vocals and chorus vocals, so I can have subtle control over the two different sounds that I want to get. You know, chorus vocals might be louder than the verse vocals, and I might want a little more compression on the chorus vocals. So I do have different buses for that. And the last bit of vocals here, I guess there's two more places I'll show you vocals. The bridge, we have Emerson sings the bridge. And here we have a main vocal, a double, and then a throw for some echo in the bridge. So let's listen to the main. And all of these are running through a bus where all the processing is happening. So we'll go ahead and let's just turn off plugins so we can hear it raw. And then I'll bring them all in. Okay, here's the bridge vocals.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, cause I was too fucked up to drive home anyway.
Okay, so some pretty heavy reverb. We have, again, Slate Virtual Mix Rack. It's hitting an EQ where I'm boosting at 15K, boosting again at around 6K, boosting again at, what would this be, like 2.25K, and then it's hitting some compression. So we'll listen to it with this on.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, cause I was too.
Okay, next up, some EQ. High pass, a little dip out of the middle, and then bringing up the high end.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, cause I was too
Okay, more compression. Like I said, you need a lot of compression for vocals. And he tracked this with compression on the way in, too.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, cause I was too.
Again, using the vocal preset on this that I made with the emphasis in the high end to start getting control of some of those S's. This is also running through the Purple Audio compressor from Plugin Alliance.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, cause I was too.
When you add all this up, you start to get 20, 30 dB of compression. And then finally, Pro DS.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That.
We're applying the same processing to both the main and the double. So when together, they sound like this.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, cause I was too fucked up to drive home anyway.
And then we have the throw that is being sent to, Here's the throw. That is being sent to Echo Boy from Soundtoys. Love this plugin.
I'll find your open arms.
It's the same old.
So just that last line, "Find your open arms," is being sent to Echo Boy to kind of finish out that bridge section. So we'll hear the bridge vocals in context.
Remember the night when I came over and you told me I could stay? That was alright, cause I was too fucked up to drive home anyway. Feels like it's been so long since we talked alone. Now when the sun comes up, I'll find your open arms.
It's the same old song.
And then the last thing we haven't heard yet is these octave down chorus vocals that come in for the last chorus. And again, they're kind of a lo-fi effect. And they're not going through any vocal bus. They're just on their own. So we'll turn plugins off on this, and we can hear what I was going for in this last vocal.
It's the same old song, the same old story.
So when I tracked it, again, this was in another project. I had already had some lo-fi on it. I don't remember what my production was on that. So oddly, I'm actually hitting DS first. I don't normally do that, but let's see what this is doing.
It's the same old song, the same old story. Comedy and tragedy.
Cool. And then we've got bad speaker, of course. This is what's going to make that lo-fi sound.
It's the same old song, the same old story. Comedy and tragedy.
Okay. We have some EQ, just high and low passing.
The same old story.
And, of course, compression. again with that emphasis on the high end to get S control.
Same old song, the same old story, comedy.
Okay, let's listen to that in context with the guitar.
It's the same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever?
Okay, we've looked at every stem in this project. The last thing I suppose we would look at would be some automation. I am doing some subtle automation on the instrumental bus. Like I said, I am increasing the mix of that FG red compressor on the instrumental bus. So we'll look at that. That's this mix knob here is just going between 20 and 25%. At the start of the chorus, I think it bumps up a little more and then settles around 25%. So let's look at that automation.
It's the same old song, the same old.
So really subtle, but just these little moves make the song feel more organic. I think automation is a really overlooked step in the process of mixing and very important. But you shouldn't be automating until the end, I think. Like that's when I do my automation, is just to add that next step. It's not to fix things, it's to enhance. And then I showed you the automation on the drums for verse 2. And then at the end, I'm automating some reverb onto the whole track that kind of gives the ending some depth. So we'll listen to that too. Oops. And that's mostly just on the lead guitars. Okay. That was a pretty thorough walkthrough. This has been pretty long, I imagine. Thank you if you stuck through this to the end. I really appreciate it. This stuff, I love talking about it. I could talk about it all day long. I'm a nerd for mixing and production. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, and I'm going to let the song play from beginning to end. And thank you for joining me.
Soundtrack in my mind, like something from the universe, is telling me that this ain't right. Could things get worse? She can't do this one more day. I'm trying to get over it, always get in my own way. She can't take it. And she said, it's the same old song, the same old story, comedy and tragedy. What if this is as good as it's ever gonna be? Just the same old story of you and me. Remember the days when we were young, like an old home video. We were so naive and dumb, couldn't get enough. You could take me by the arm, and I would be the lucky one. Nothing like two broken hearts that went through so much. And she said, it's the same old song, the same